Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. I am very pleased to welcome to the show Miss Kaitlyn Connor. She is a Nashville-based keyboardist, vocalist, teacher, and session player, currently on tour with Maggie Rose. Hailing from Atlanta, Georgia, she began studying classical piano at the age of 4, but eventually expanded on her love of rock, soul, and jazz music during her high school years. She also studied classical voice, ballet, cello, and performed in musical theater productions. After moving to Nashville in 2008 and earning a piano performance degree from Middle Tennessee State University, Kaitlyn quickly found herself in and out of recording studios and on the road with various artists such as Hayley Orrantia, Them Vibes, Maradeen, Brennley Brown, and Dylan Hartigan. She has opened for Bon Jovi, Kelly Clarkson, Hart, Joan Jett, and has made over 30 appearances at the Grand Ole Opry. Welcome, Kaitlyn.
Hey, Stanley. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So, we'll kind of go ahead and get started here. Tell me about your upbringing and childhood. You grew up in Atlanta?
I did. I grew up in Alpharetta, Georgia, technically, which is a little bit north of Atlanta. And to get right to it, my parents got me in lessons when I was about age 4. I feel like it was kind of apparent from a young age that I wanted to play music. I was always singing and dancing, and so I started taking classical lessons with someone at a local church, and that's kind of where the story starts.
So, I guess you didn't really grow up in a musical family, because I know you had mentioned to me earlier your dad was working in another industry at the time?
Right. My mother played clarinet, I believe, when she was younger. So it wasn't technically like no one in my family played music, but you know, there was always the Beatles playing, and like I said, I think they could tell from an early age that that was kind of where my heart was.
Sure.
And you know, great parenting.
Yeah.
Got me right in there.
Got you right in there. I love it. Was there any decision that you were like, this is what I want to do for a living? Like,
not for a very long time.
Right.
I mean, just to expand, you know, I started with piano when I was about 4, and then I got quickly into theater, which included ballet and dancing. I played cello for a while. It was just anything musical that I could get my hands on. That was what I was involved in.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was so young, I don't think I really realized what my path was going to be until later in life. That definitely came later, like college and beyond, you know.
Tell me about some of like the musical productions that you were in growing up.
Oh my gosh. So I was obsessed with musical theater, and growing up in Atlanta, there's the infamous Fox Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, gosh, probably around like 5 or 6 years old, my parents taking me to audition for the production of Annie. So, because they would have a touring Broadway cast, and they would audition like the orphan ensemble and some of like the minor roles every city that they toured to. And I remember going to that audition and ended up being in the ensemble. And so I found myself on the Fox Theater stage when I was very young and was just hooked by that.
It's an amazing opportunity.
It is. And I did it for like several different times. Also Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Mm-hmm. I was also in the children's ensemble when I was young, and I did like the Wizard of Oz in middle school. I mean, I was obsessed.
Yeah, a theater geek.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even in high school, I was in a production of Bat Boy, and I got to go to Edinburgh, Scotland to perform in the Fringe Festival with my high school. So that was a really big part of my life.
That had to have been an amazing experience.
Oh, I mean, incredible. it was really confusing at times because I loved it so much, but I was so torn, I think, between everything else that I was doing, including piano, you know, and I thought maybe for a while theater, like I wanted to be on Broadway. And then I kind of realized I hated acting class.
Why?
I didn't hate it, but I didn't vibe with that as much, you know? Just as you mature and you know, I was discovering new music at the time, and I was also falling in love with ballet, and high school it's a weird time.
It definitely is a weird time. I mean, ballet's definitely not easy at all.
No, and surprisingly, like, I think that's where my heart was heading at the time, when I was in high school. And I didn't, when we were talking about college, I realized, like, I don't think I want to go to school for acting. Like, my heart is more in something more expressive, like dance and playing music. It's a very different type of expression.
It definitely is. And going back to music, who were like some of your earliest influences? What kind of stuff were you listening to growing up?
So, like I said, my family, they always really appreciated music, but they weren't like, it wasn't the type of household where there was always music on or like in the car or, but there was a lot of Beatles. A lot of Beatles. And, really what I really remember was like some of the live shows I saw when I was young. My parents took me to see the Beach Boys, I think, when I was about 5. I'm pretty sure that was my first concert. And I just remember that just being this whole new experience for me. And then about a year later, I went and saw Elton John. And that was the first time I think I saw the piano being like the main instrument in a rock and roll, essentially, like setting. Like it was almost, I mean, it was theatrical. So I could really connect with it even at such a young age. So those were like really big influences when I was younger.
Elton John definitely puts on an amazing show, incredible show. The costumes, the lights, the just the whole background just really sets the mood.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a theatrical production. It's, you know, taking that music and putting it, you know, we see it in pop shows and a lot of things nowadays, making that come to life. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the first to really figure that out, you know. And as a young child, I think that just really just took me off my feet. It was great.
Wanting to expand a little bit about your earliest influences in music, what can you tell me about some like the first records or CDs you remember buying as a kid?
So as far as I can remember, the first CD that I actually bought myself was Smash Mouth. Oh, okay. Like in middle school, I'm pretty sure it had an explicit tag on it, and I don't even know if my parents knew who that was. But that was actually the first CD I think I actually bought. But other than that, it's kind of funny because I always have these memories of my dad taking me to school, and he would have usually Bob Seger or James Taylor, like one of these CDs, like very classic rock. Mm-hmm. And anytime the car would start, that CD would start, and he would just let it play. So I got to know a lot of music like that because I heard it every day, and I didn't hate that. No. But I didn't really understand it yet. But yeah, that was kind of part of it.
It kind of takes you a little bit to learn the lyrical content, but when you're a kid, you're just sitting there bobbing your head up and down and just...
Right. I'm like, oh, I know this. Like, I know the words to this. Because I heard it every day. And yeah. It's a really fond memory of mine.
So amazing. So you're doing all these things, you're acting, you're dancing, you're getting into music. Tell me about like the first gigs you remember playing. What were they like?
Well, I guess technically the very first gig I ever played, I think I was 5 years old, and I had been taking piano for about a year. And my studio always did a Christmas show like in the mall. And
yeah.
My mom, who's probably listening, hi Mom, she loves that I tell this story. But she, I mean, I can remember going on stage. That was my very first time on stage. And, you know, I don't remember what I played. Little Christmas tune. And I remember people applauding, and it was just, I felt so comfortable. Like that was like where I belonged. Like I wasn't nervous. I wasn't one of those kids. And I walked off stage and I told my mom, like, that was awesome. I want to do that again. So taking it like really far back, I guess that was the first time kind of I was ever on stage musically. But technically, you know, I had a high school band, and we played for the talent show. We were kind of like the house band. So that was really fun. And then in college, it was, you know, it just snowballed, like different experiences, different gigs.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to move ahead into our first selection of the night. This is a song you played on called The Frame. Tell me about this piece here.
So this is a song by a younger artist named Connor Daly. He's out of Virginia, and I started working with Connor 2 years ago. We're headed into the studio next week to start his next EP. But he's this really young, amazing artist that I had the opportunity to play keys, kind of co-produce and sing on. I think it speaks for itself.
All right.
This is The Frame.
All right. We're going to hear it right now here on The Piano Men. All right. You're tuned to The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. I'm chatting with musician Kaitlyn Connor about her illustrious career. Now, if you want to, you can share a little bit more details on the production of the song that you just heard.
Yeah, you know, Stanley, it's so fun to listen back to this was just done almost a year ago. But it just makes me think of how fun it is to work with like younger artists. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have this like solid band, and we play together all the time, and just how you can take that relationship between a band and then take someone's idea and like the creative process of making that come to life. Trying to paint the bigger picture, you know, and everything from, you know, a little like a bass, like finding a fill there, or like, you know, where there needs to be space, like paying attention to the lyrics and the story, and kind of like what serves the song, and then background vocals, which is like the second love of mine. It's really fun to like revisit that, and just a really great learning experience all the time.
Definitely seems like there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to that.
Yes, in a good way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So you moved to Nashville in 2008, and you studied at Middle Tennessee State University. What made you want to decide to move to Nashville, Music City?
So it's a little bit of a long story, but technically, when I moved to Nashville, I started at Vanderbilt University. And at the time, I was kind of at a crossroads, and part of me felt like very pressured to get into a career that was more financially stable. But I was still playing piano, and I'm just being completely honest. I was like, well, maybe I can do both, and I can use piano to help me get into a school like Vanderbilt and study. I actually wanted to be an orthodontist. So I got in, and I started off doing both. And, you know, it was just very time consuming, and it was hard having to spend so much time studying calculus and science and these things that used to really intrigued me, but it was taking away from all of the hours that I needed to practice. And at the same time, I was restarting a band with a friend of mine who went to Middle Tennessee named Chris Conrad. And that band was called Afro. And it was like, eventually it became, we wanted to be like the next Yes. Like, we were discovering
prog
rock, jazz fusion. It was like everything we were learning in music school, but with rock and roll and jamming. And so that was, it was kind of pulling me in that direction. And I spent a few years kind of going through all of that, and then eventually switched and transferred to Middle Tennessee, where I met some amazing professors and got to play with my band, tour on the weekends. And a really important thing was I got to learn how to do session work at MT. Like, they have a recording industry program that is world renowned, and I had never been in a recording studio. I mean, maybe twice in my life, but any musician will tell you that's a very different experience than playing live at a concert or even a solo piano, whatever it is. So it was really cool. Like, sometimes it was the 4 a.m. sessions that engineers would have, and I would have to go in at 4 a.m. and I'm not getting paid, but I wanted to learn how it all worked, and how to be a session musician. And I did that for a few years, and yeah.
Would you prefer playing over recording, or were you just, wanting to take it all in and just kind of...
I definitely consider myself more of a live player. Like, I really love the energy and just the personal connection that happens on stage with people you're playing with. But, that happens in the studio as well. And every session is different. But like I was talking about with Connor's song, it's really cool to, like, take someone's idea and be able to, like, be the Bob Ross aspect of it, you know, and paint the big picture. So
yeah. Now, you said you were at MT for a while, got your degree there. What pieces of advice did you take away from your time there? And I know you had mentioned you played some gigs while you were in college. Care to share any stories?
Yeah. I did a lot. I'm not going to lie. I mean, like, during the day, I was, getting my piano performance degree, which is very demanding. And I had to do my junior and senior recitals, which are about an hour-long recital, with a lot of different aspects. Like, you have to play a Baroque piece, something contemporary, something from the Romantic era, and it's all memorized, and it takes a really long time and a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
So doing that, and then, like, at night, I would be jamming with my band, and then on the weekends touring. I was young, so sleep, I guess, didn't really matter.
No.
But I mean, so many stories, but I think, like, just being able to push myself to different levels, but then also, like, I showed up and I aced my recital, and I worked so hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. All, while touring and trying to do this totally separate thing. So what I take from it is, I made a lot of really good connections there, and I learned a lot of really good life lessons, and even things like, about being in the studio, and just, these opportunities aren't going to just present themselves to you. Like, you have to go out and find them. And you have to put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable or where you don't know, and you have to be comfortable saying that you don't know and that you want to learn. So I really learned a lot in that period of my life. I'm so grateful.
I'd imagine, like, when you're in those recitals, I mean, it can be pretty stressful to have to figure out, like, what, memorizing all the melodies and notes, and going through all that, did you have like a particular favorite piece?
Oh, yes. So I'm very particular to romantic music, like Rachmaninoff and Chopin. And so in my junior recital, I played Chopin Ballade No. 1. And in my senior recital, I was able to play Ballade No. 4, which is, in my opinion, just one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written. Mm-hmm. But it was so difficult. And you're talking about memorizing music. When I was studying with Dr. Ricey, my professor there, I just had no idea how many different ways there were to memorize something. Like, I have a photographic memory, so for a really long time, I would be performing music my whole life, and in my head, I was reading the sheet music. But when you're performing something to that level, you don't, like, if you have a brain fart or something, and you have to be ready for anything. You have to know this piece inside and out. And so my teacher, my professor, she taught me, like, we had to go through and analyze every chord change, every modulation, like at any given time. She used to blindfold me and put me in the hallway and make me play the whole piece on a wooden bench. And at any time she would be like, what key are we in? And I'd have to tell her, and because you have to know this front to back. And I will tell you that it pays off, because there were times where, I mean, we're human. Like, you lose your train of thought. And, you know, a lot of people will just freeze in that situation. But I could be like, okay, I know I'm in D flat. Like, I know I'm going here. You don't panic. And all those methods are there for a reason. But it, like I said, it's a lot of work, but just really amazing, like what your brain can do and how it works.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, the training really helped you become, proficient, and you definitely got, seems like you got better every time, you were doing that. And you had mentioned you started the band Afro. You were together a long time. Any fun stories you want to share about your time with Afro and going on the road?
God, there's so many. I would really like to share. This was a kind of a defining moment in my life too. So, our bassist, who was my best friend from high school, who started the band with me, Chris Conrad, he was at MTSU and was renting this house kind of out in the country. And he had all this property. We're young. We're like, oh my gosh, like, what a fun place to fool around. And there was this big hangar with all these airplane parts in it. And long story short, we turned it into a little like concert venue. And we called it the hangar. Like, we made a bar out of an airplane wing and had airplane seats all around and built a stage. And that's kind of like where that band, like where we kind of cut our teeth. And there was this one moment where there were probably like 300 plus people in there. And we were like 19, 20. And we were just improvising. We were going somewhere. We didn't know where it was, but we knew we would find our grounding. But I looked out and I just saw 300 faces of people that realized what was going on, and they were like with us. And that was kind of when I got bit by that bug for the very first time. And I realized, I was like, this is the high that you can't buy. Like, this is, if I don't chase this feeling for the rest of my life, I'm always going to wonder what if. So, and that was with that band Afro. And it's one of really, truly a life-changing moment in my life.
Well, it's always nice to have those reminders every now and then, like, this is why you're doing what you're doing, and your passion, it pays off. They say hard work pays off, right? So you were able to have that experience happen. So that's really cool, to hear that. We're going to kind of switch gears here and play another song that you played on with
Connor Daly.
Connor Daly, September Sky.
Yes.
What can you tell me about this song here?
So this was off of the same EP. I believe this was the very first one that we worked on. But like I said, just a really cool opportunity for us as a band to take this young artist and kind of create this vision of September Sky, and it's a feel good song. I love it.
All right, we're gonna play September Sky right here on the Piano Men. All right, you're tuned to the Piano Men, talking with musician Kaitlyn Connor about her adventures in the music business. And you co-founded the band Maradeen in 2014. How did that start up?
So at that time in my life, this was actually right when I graduated college, and my band Afro had broken up, and I was doing a few gigs here and there, but kind of, it's that weird limbo that a lot of people experience, like when you graduate and like you're new to the industry, and like, I don't know, I was kind of at a loss, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna go get my master's or like what I should do. And my friend Whit Murray moved to town. He played in this band called Mama's Love, and we had known each other for years, and just randomly hit me up and was like, hey, like, do you want to start a band? And I was like, yes, please. Like, I need something to do, and that's just kind of how it started. And, we were both just kind of experimenting with different things. And, it happened exactly at the right time.
Yeah, okay. All right. And you've also worked with several people over the course of your career so far, and I just wanted to throw out some names of artists you've worked with, and if you can, describe each of the names you've worked with. We'll start with Hayley Orrantia.
Hayley Orrantia. A lot of people know her. She plays Erica Goldberg on the show The Goldbergs.
Oh, okay.
And I just randomly got an audition and got this great opportunity to play with her in 2018. She's also an amazing singer-songwriter, and she had been working on TV for a long time, but also had all this music and wanted to do a tour. And so I was lucky enough to tour with her for 3 months, and the opener was Brennley Brown, she was on The Voice, and she was 16 at the time, and just an incredible artist. She lives in town now, but I got to play for both of them, and that was a great experience.
It's a pretty good segue. Yeah, I was going to mention Brennley Brown.
Yes.
Dylan Hartigan.
So Dylan Hartigan, I met when I was with Maggie Rose, and we were opening for Kelly Clarkson for a few days. And Kelly she's so incredible. She
absolutely fantastic. Great human being.
I don't even know where to start with her. But she was a coach on The Voice at the time. And Dylan Hartigan was on The Voice and was part of her team. And she did this really great thing in her shows where she would have a moment where she would invite an up-and-coming artist, or a lot of times people like that were on The Voice, or to play one of their songs with her band, and she would join in. And it happened to be one of the shows that we were opening, and I went out to see who she was going to play with that night. And there he was in a wife beater, like Jersey boy. And I was like, okay, like who's this guy? And just voice of an angel, and his song Stop, Look, and Listen, which I was also in later years lucky enough to record on his first album. But it really it stuck with me, and he moved to Nashville, and we became great friends, and he toured with Maggie and Them Vibes in 2019, and
yeah,
one of my favorites.
Speaking of Them Vibes, what was it like working with them?
Just pure rock and roll. I mean, just the best of times. I kind of started just tagging along almost in a musical sense, playing with them because I was playing with Maggie, and we kind of, Them Vibes and Maggie, they were writing together, and we kind of, we were touring together, and it just kind of worked out. It just kind of fused together. I mean, who doesn't love rock and roll? Like, it was just some of the most fun I've ever had on stage.
I've got to see Them Vibes perform a few times. They are just
awesome.
Incredible musicians, talented, really creative. One of the best local bands I've ever seen in concert.
They're Nashville legends for sure.
And you mentioned Kelly Clarkson a few minutes ago, and you've also opened for some other big names, including Bon Jovi and Joan Jett. What was it like being around them?
So Bon Jovi, that's a Maradeen story. We think it was 2017, maybe 2016, but we also just a stand-up guy. He did this thing where when he went on tour, he would have like a contest where anyone could submit a song, and he picked a different opening act for every single date on his tour. And long story short, we won, and I got to open up for him at Phillips Arena, where I saw Elton John when I was 7 years old in my hometown of Atlanta in front of like 22,000 people with my best friends. And just truly unreal. And I'll never forget it. Like, he came to our dressing room before and, told us how he had listened to our single, and he handpicked us, and took a minute to talk to us and take a picture, and like it, just really it was awesome.
That's like a memory that would last a lifetime. Talk about like
forever.
A full circle moment,
Very.
Your first concert being in Atlanta, then actually performing in that same building in front of millions of people, thousands of people screaming, man.
And that was definitely the biggest stage, like the first time I had ever been in an arena or anything. And I'll never forget that, like walking on the stage to sound check, and I'm standing on the stage and I'm just listing in my head like all of the artists I've seen here and just like growing up, and it was very, very special.
Sure. Perhaps the biggest accomplishment for you currently is getting to play at the Grand Ole Opry. Talk about like the holy grail of country music venues. What's it like performing on such an iconic stage?
I mean, magical. Every time. We're pretty fortunate. We get to play there almost every month. I'll actually be playing with Maggie Rose tomorrow night at the Opry. But it's very hard to describe how special that place is. Like the energy and just the people you get to meet. The Opry band, they're just some of the most unreal musicians and hardest working people, and most inspiring. It's very hard to put into words. And I do have a fun story kind of to go with that though, because my very first time playing the Opry with Maggie, it was a really big night. I think somebody was being inducted into the Opry Hall of Fame. So it was a sold out crowd. I was very nervous. And we were playing one of Maggie's songs called It's You. And we had recently changed the key. And for some reason, I don't use the transpose button, but my keyboard had a transpose button on. And so I have to start the song. And I actually started at a half step high. and I knew it immediately. I heard it. And, it's one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like my career's over. But thank you, music school. I somehow found a way to modulate very quickly and make it kind of sound okay. And, and then we did it. And, but in the moment, like the adrenaline is so intense. Like you don't really think about it till later. But, could have been a disaster, but here we are. And I'm so grateful I get to play on that stage all the time.
It's really unbelievable how the announcer will say during the show that the band gets to rehearse with the artist once. Mm-hmm. Talk about like something that you really have to get used to and prepare for. That's got to be really stressful.
I mean, they truly are. They're insane musicians, and everyone, they all get like the charts and the music beforehand. But, I've played there when it was just Maggie and like myself and maybe one other person from her band. Like nowadays we can bring the whole band, but there's still a lot of members from the Opry band that are there. But the rehearsal is honestly like just as cool as the actual performance. yeah, it's unreal what these people do, and especially like the background singers. I mean, they're singing harmonies that, I mean, maybe they're on the album, but like I've never even noticed, and I'm on stage and I hear this cool harmony part, and it rocks my world. It's just the coolest.
It's a whole different experience getting to be there.
Absolutely.
You just got to take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to kind of switch gears now and play a song by one of the members of Them Vibes.
Yes.
Alex Rahal. This is called You Need Soul. Tell me about this one.
So this whole album was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. I mean, Alex he's such a poet. And, we've been friends for so long, and I don't think I'd really heard any of these songs before. Most of us hadn't before we went in the studio. But I remember this one in particular. I was playing like the upright kind of wonky piano, and we were trying to work through kind of the vibe of this song and kind of how it was going to work out. And Bobby Holland, who is an amazing engineer, producer, just everything. I'll never forget, we were trying stuff out, and he came over our headphones and was like, hey, I want you guys to all pretend like you just like stumbled in kind of drunk, like to a bar, and there's already instruments set up, and you just sit down, you play. And I was like, okay, I got it. It was just magic. I love this one.
Alrighty. We're going to play You Need Soul right now on The Piano Men. Back on The Piano Men, talking with musician Kaitlyn Connor tonight. You know, you're playing and going around the world touring, and you've also had the opportunity to teach music as well. Tell me about how you got started with that.
I feel like the first actual lesson I taught I was maybe like 13, and I just, was kind of slowly teaching like kids in the neighborhood. It was like friends of my mom's or something. But then when I was in school, That was a great way to kind of make some money. And I do love teaching. Like, not especially children, like not everyone totally gets the bug, like I did. But, when you really get those kids that like an hour is not enough, and then like I try to incorporate improv into like the very last like 5 minutes, where you just play like 1-4-5 or something, and you're like, okay, C major, like just try it out. And they're like, anything? And I'm like, anything. Like anything goes, because that was something I never discovered till later. So it's fun to kind of, take the things that maybe you wish you had been taught earlier, and and show it to others. Yeah.
Gotta love that. We've mentioned her a few times on the show. You're currently on tour with singer Maggie Rose. When did you start playing with her band, and what's it like working with her?
Oh my gosh. So I've been working with Maggie for almost 6 years, and she's my sister. It's so hard to come up with the words to say everything we've been through, and the music that we've created and the places we've been, and what's to come. She just really has a grasp on who she is, and is so open to like who she will become, and just everything. Like nothing scares her. She is the hardest working person I've ever met, and it's just so inspiring every day. And I can't believe I'm so blessed to play with her, and we just have a really good time.
Yeah, sum it up. You've been touring all over the world. You've played in Europe, in France. I know you told me about getting a chance to play there. That had to have been an amazing experience.
We actually we just got done playing the Beach Boys cruise. So you remember I told you my first concert was the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So talk about a full circle moment. We got to spend 6 days on the Beach Boys cruise, and then we did the Blues Comes Alive cruise. That's Joe Bonamassa's thing. That was just a few weeks ago. And this weekend, Thursday, we'll be in Memphis. Then we go to Oxford and Biloxi, and to infinity and beyond.
I bet those cruise ships are a lot of fun to play on.
They were so fun, and this was my first experience doing a music cruise. But it's like a music festival, but everyone's right there. And, I made friendships that I know are going to last a lifetime. And I got to meet idols of mine. And then, just the camaraderie that comes with it is very special.
Do you feel the music business has changed in the last 20 or so years since you started?
Of course, it definitely has. To be honest, I don't deal too much with the business side, and just strictly honestly speaking, that's kind of why I enjoy what I do, is because I like to paint the big picture. I like to play the music and sing the harmonies, and that's like what I'm really focused on. And I trust others, that's their job to kind of deal with the business side. But obviously, like with social media and there's so many things that have changed, and I see it like how artists and everything has to change for them. So I have a lot of respect for what all those people do, but yes, it has definitely changed.
Yeah, the marketing's definitely become a big thing now with the internet, and it's a whole different world. COVID definitely opened up a lot of possibilities in terms of marketing and branding, and the virtual concerts and streaming. Talk about a game changer.
Yes. And I felt so blessed because we jumped right on that. Everyone in the Maggie Rose camp, including management, marketing, everyone, we started doing virtual concerts because it was what people needed, and it was what we needed. And we got to do some really cool things. We got to do a whole concert where we did Bill Withers live at Carnegie Hall. And we had, cool special guests like Joy Aladakum and Wendy Moten, and really cool experiences that I don't know I would have had, had we not been in that state of the world. So trying to see the positive side of it, yes, and what it gave us.
Gotta love it. So you had mentioned a few shows that you're playing at in the coming days and weeks. What else is coming up for you? What's next?
Just a lot more of that. We're going to be on the road all year. There's a lot of music festivals that we're going to do, and I love music festivals.
I do too.
I mean, if I wasn't playing them, I would just be going to them because that's what I do. But yeah, we get to go to summer camp, and we're doing Bourbon and Beyond in the fall, which was so much fun our first year. We get to open for Government Mule, which is a band that I've followed since high school.
Pretty big deal.
Yep. Marcus King, who's a good buddy of ours, will be on tour with him. Just a lot of really exciting things that are coming, and then we'll be releasing her new record sometime later this year.
Do you have any advice for aspiring musicians that want to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah. I think the best advice I can give is just to show up. Obviously, show up on time, but be prepared. Be beyond prepared, and be present. Even if you're just called to play on a session for an artist that you don't know, and I hate to say this, but it's just a paid gig. Get to know that artist and what they're singing about, because I think that's what is going to save music and keep it alive is regardless of how you feel about it, you're painting that picture for that person. And so you need to know what it's about. That's important. And then to follow that very closely is just be genuine. Be a genuine person. And when you're out there, networking or whatever you want to call it. I hate that. Actually don't network, go out and just make real relationships with people. When you go out to open jams or all these events, and I know it's when you move to town, there's so much competition and it's so intimidating, and you just want to kind of show off what you can do, which is understandable, but watch someone else play, open your ears and then engage, talk about sports, talk about something different. Because those are the things that create, you have to be patient, but they create real relationships. And over time, people remember that. And that's what we're all here to do.
Yeah.
Music is an intimate relationship. And so it's
important to be you and real and authentic. So
yes.
That's just a great way to be. I really love that.
Thank you.
I really do. So, we got a couple minutes. Where can people find you? More about you? Do you have a website you want to plug?
I actually do not. I stick to the Instagram, Facebook. But and those are fun ways. I just love what I do, and I love to share, stuff we're doing on the road. We're just being silly and just the realness of it all. It's not but yeah, social media and anything Maggie's doing, I'll be with her all year. But yeah,
Kaitlyn, this has been wonderful, getting a chance to talk with you about the music business and what you've been up to, and it means a lot to me and the listeners to have you on, so I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be the one being interviewed. Yeah. This is something I don't normally get to do, so.
Yeah, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Would love to. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we're going to close the show tonight with 2020 from Maggie Rose. This is Stanley Carr, The Piano Man. You can check us out on our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Piano Man Radio Show. I will see you next week.